Hello stitch friends and welcome back to the channel. I'm Waki and in today's tutorial we'll be learning all about that manipulation. If you take a good look at the skirt and blouse part of my gown, you understand what I'm talking about. I know you've been struggling and thinking how people get different positions of that on their dresses, and probably you've been stuck up on just one style of that. I came to tell you that it's super easy and I'll be sharing how in this tutorial. If you are new to my channel, just know you are highly welcome. Do not forget to like, subscribe, and comment as we have more in store for you. And for my returning subscribers, you already know that without you, I cannot be here. So do not forget to like and ask questions wherever you are confused. I know you love my cape top. I recorded a video for that already, so you can check it out on my channel. We'll be making use of this crepe fabric for this tutorial. I used about 1.5 yards or 2 yards. I can't really remember. If you're on the larger side, just know you need more. And then I have this zip. It's a big head ready-made type. We also have this sellotape, which is going to be our lifesaver to hold down our darts temporarily. And last but not the least, we have our patterns for both the back and the front. I've always been a Natalie Brace girl, and that's the pattern I'm using for this tutorial. If you are using other types of patterns, it's going to work very well. And if you do not know how to go about drafting of this pattern, I have a detailed video on my channel. Please go ahead and check it out before beginning this tutorial. I know a lot of people say Natalie Bray pattern does not work very well for them. It could be that they have not taken out their shapings very well. Like this one on the chest line, I usually take half an inch of the dart from that chest line. That is 1/4 inch on each side, and it gives me a very good fit. I'll make another video explaining in details how to make your Natalie Bray pattern fit. After doing that, I'm going to fold down that dart and I'll tape it with my masking tape. As you can see, that straight line is looking bent right now, and I'll make it straight using my ruler. You can already notice that there is a little extra at that chest line. Don't worry about that, it's going to be taken care of when the dart is withdrawn. Please, if you are not using the Natalie Bray pattern, there is no need to go through this process. We're just making this so our dress will fit very well. If you're ever going to have a center front seam, you can go ahead to add allowance. I didn't make use of it at the end of the day, but I just wanted my pattern to have that seam allowance. At this point, I'm withdrawing my darts. Remember, I said I'll be doing so, and it has taken care of that extra we had at the center. Whenever we are talking about dart manipulation, it's just a way of transferring a dart from one point to another. Now, I don't want that dart at the shoulder, so I'm going to fold it out right now and transfer it to another point. I'm using my tape to help secure this part down. If you're not using the Natalie Bray pattern, whatever pattern you are using, you're going to tape the current location of your dart out, and then you can slash the paper at any other point to transfer the dart to that point. I hope you understand. Now I'm extending my waist dart leg to get to the bust point, and I'm going to be slashing it out. You can notice that the dart has been transferred from that shoulder point to the waist position right now. I mentioned earlier that I'm not going to be using that center front allowance, so I'm going ahead to cut it out right now. I want you to know that the pattern can be used the way it is, and this pattern is going to have the dart only at that waistline. If you want it at the center front, we can still go ahead to slash it. The dress I'm making has the dart at that point, so I'm going ahead to draw that line the way it is to the center front. Please just take a good look at the screen, and I'll go ahead to slash it. When I slash that point, you see the dart will be transferred from that waist point to the center front. Note that I'm cutting it to my bust point, and I'm not cutting the paper out entirely. I'm just going to arrange it and tip it just the way I'm doing right now at that waist point, so you can see now that the dart is transferred to the center front. To secure that part in position, just use your tape and make it down just like we did for the other parts. Remember, we didn't take out our usual waist dart, so I'm doing that right now. I'm taking half inch on both sides and simply join it to the bust point. Fold out the dart part and tape it down. After this, we are using this pattern to cut it out on our main fabric. My front part is already on fold, and I'm placing my pattern paper that way, pinning down to secure. I'm done cutting out the other part, only that point is remaining. So you use your tape to measure about 1 inch to 2 inch away from the bust point. Do not cut it directly to the bust point or it will be ill fitting. I'm cutting in such a way that I'll have half an inch seam allowance on both sides. You don't have to cut out this that part on your fabric. You can just mark it out and stitch it that way. I went ahead to cut the lining part for the front part off camera, and this is how we are going to stitch it. You are going to flip it that way with the wrong side facing you, and then pin it down just as I'm doing right now, and then you are going to stitch down. When you are done stitching with one part, you are going to flip it over and pin down the other side as well, and stitch using the half-inch seam allowance we left on the fabric. You can already see how beautiful it's going to look after stitching on the right side. Now let's move over to the neckline. For my neck width, I used 4 inches while the neck depth was 3.5 inches, and using my French curve, I joined these points together. I'll go ahead to cut it out using my scissors, and now I'm going to let go one of my secrets. In order for the lining fabric not to show on our dress, we are going to trim off the edge of the lining out by 1/8 of an inch. Just take time and do this and you will spot the difference. And I promise your lining is not going to show on your dress after sewing. On the back pattern, I'm going ahead to remove that seam that's on the back line just like so, and I'll be cutting it out and cutting out also of my fabric. But while cutting it out, I'm going to add my allowance, both the zip allowance and the allowance at the side. To make the back sit properly, I'm going in by 3/4 of an inch at that point, and I'll connect it to that back line and then cut out. That is how my dart looks after stitching on the machine, and I'll go ahead to stitch on this lining part as well. Then place the lining fabric on the crepe, right sides facing right sides, and stitch on the wrong side. For the back, to get my neck width, I'm measuring the shoulder length of the front on the back. I think it was about 4 inches. I've already marked my neck depth of 1.5 inches off camera, and I'll go ahead to make it into this slight curve, and then I'll be cutting it out using my scissors. The same thing I did for my front lining, I'll be reducing the back lining by 1/8 of an inch, just as I'm doing right now, before going ahead to stitch it together. To manipulate the skirt part of my dress, I've gone ahead to trace out my skirt pattern on this brown paper, and I'm going to be cutting it out. When marking out the dart on your skirt, make sure to divide your dart into two different points and draw as I'm doing right now. The width of my dart is 1 inch at the two different positions, so remember to add an extra 2 inches seam allowance at the side. Then my dart length for the first one is 5 inches, while the second one is about 7 inches. And please make sure the pattern you're using for your skirt manipulation is cut as a straight skirt, not as a pencil skirt. If you want your skirt to be pencil, that will be done on the back part of the skirt. So right now we'll be drawing our slash lines. I'm starting my line from about 7 inches down from my hip line, and then I'm connecting it to that center point of my skirt. And then for the second line, I'm just making my line parallel to the first, and I think the width is about 2 inches. You can work with whatever width you prefer at this point, it's totally optional. Now begin slashing your skirt from that center front point towards the side area, but make sure you are not cutting out your pattern entirely. Once you get to that edge, ensure to stop at that point. Now that we have our slashes open, we are going to fold down and pin or tape that dart, just like I'm doing on the screen. I'll repeat same for the second dart, just like you can see. Remember, this is the front pattern. As such, I've had my fabric already unfold before placing down this pattern paper. You can either pin or tape down the pattern on your fabric so that it doesn't shift. Please, while spreading it out on your fabric, just ensure the fabric lies flat, just the way mine is, like there is no bogusness at the side before you proceed to cutting it out. I'm cutting out in such a way that I have half an inch seam allowance for stitching. You can still use this pattern to make pleats, but if you are making pleats, you're just going to mark the point of the pleat on the fabric, and you are not going to cut out into the slash. You are just going to shape the top. After cutting out the pattern, remove the tape or the pins on the fabric, and then we'll proceed to showing you how to sew. Start by unfolding the fabric this way to the right side. Then fold it over on the wrong side just like so, and then you are going to pin it down and stitch. Repeat same for the other slash before taking it to the other side. As for the back pattern, I'm just using my regular skirt pattern, but I'll be adding seam allowance for zipper before cutting it out. I'm done stitching my front skirt pattern, and I'm going ahead to cut out a lining piece for my skirt. I don't want it to get to the entire length of my skirt, so I'm just making it about 18 inches. I'll go ahead to stitch this lining part on my fabric before joining it to the upper bodice. This is what I have after stitching my back neckline, and then that is the skirt part. Before joining these parts together, we are going ahead to shape it so that we'll have a very good back fit. So for the two back pieces, I'm marking half an inch up from the zip line points, just as you can see right now, and then I'll be joining it to the side just before the seam allowance, and I'll be cutting out that part just as you can see. For the skirt part, I'll be going down also by half inch by the center back area, and then I'll connect it to the side. After this step, we can go ahead to join the back upper bodice and the skirt part together. Next step, fixing your zipper before joining the front part to the back part. I joined the front bodice to the skirt part before carrying out this step, but I did it off camera. So you will be doing it just like I'm showing you right now. Place the front and the back part right sides facing right sides. Then use the lining of the back to wrap it over, secure in place before sewing. After this step, we are going to sew in our elastic sleeves. I'm going to make another video on how I went about the making of these sleeves. Then go ahead to pin down and sew around the armhole area. The last step will be joining at the side, and our dress is done. That's how to go about that manipulation. Thank you so much for watching, and bye.